There's no doubt in my mind that Ohio State's defense is ready to battle with Oregon.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Feel Good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Here on Friday, October 11th in the year 2024. I am your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to us by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The day before the biggest game of the year, you know we had to have a big-time guest with us today. It's my guy, Mo Murphy, of the Off the Ball Network, the host of the Up in Flames podcast, and a part of the OG3 as well. Mo is very, very busy, and I'm glad Mo is here to talk about Ohio State and Oregon, a big-time matchup, top three showdown. And Mo, I have confidence that Ohio State's defense is ready to battle with Oregon tomorrow night.
Yeah, 100%. I like what I've seen from this defense. Like, here's my thing. I know everybody's they haven't played anybody, but here's my thing. How do you look when you play nobody? Like, if Iowa's offense is bad, then a good defense is supposed to continue to make them look bad. If Michigan State's quarterback makes a lot of mistakes, then a good defense is supposed to continue to make a lot of mistakes. And that's exactly what they've done. I know we're concerned about our linebacker spot. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But the way we could get to the quarterback, the way we finish plays, the way we put pressure on the quarterback, and the way we're able to get turnovers, I think those are major things that within the defense these past few years, in those type of games leading up to this game, we haven't been very dominant in those facets of defense. And now we're not missing tackles. We're creating turnovers, and we're hitting home. We're hitting home runs on sacks and actually able to take the quarterback down. So I think that's been a crucial part of us being undefeated up to this point. You can say whatever you want about our schedule, but guess what? We don't get to duck no smoke no more. This is time. We play number 2 versus number 3. There's no more said about our schedule. We play a real game. You get to see how good this Ohio State team really is.
So you hit a couple things there about the pressure that Ohio State's been able to put on quarterbacks, and I believe they'll put a lot of pressure on Dillon Gabriel tomorrow night. And then also they're not missing tackles. I saw, this is coming from PFF, they said that Caleb Downs has not missed a tackle since the Akron game. And then I also saw from PFF that the Ohio State has, I think it's 25% of dropbacks. They've either hit the quarterback or got a sack. So you're saying you drop back 4 times, one of those 4 times you're getting hit or you're getting a sack? These are things that we were saying all offseason Ohio State needs to do as far as the pressure. Tuimoloau, Sawyer, whoever's on the defensive line, whoever's blitzing, you got to get pressure, more pressure. Because last year they weren't getting it consistently. All of a sudden this year, Sawyer's in the backfield a lot. Tuimoloau's in the backfield a lot. Blitzing linebackers are back there making plays. You got safeties coming in blitzing. Doesn't matter who it is. They're all making plays behind the line of scrimmage. And for Oregon's offense, who Dillon Gabriel is going to move around a little bit, but he's also going to hold the ball a little bit too. That might play into what Ohio State's defense wants him to do, as long as they keep contained, which I believe they can. They don't do it like you want to, because Aiden Childs got outside a little bit and made some plays. But if they do a better job of keeping contained, that just builds to how confident I am about how well this defense will play tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. I think going into these type of games, we always when they have a scrambling quarterback. I don't know how teams, especially in college, develop these MOs of man, for years we struggle against running quarterbacks or whatever it may be, because with recruiting and all that, you think you could kind of fix it a lot more than the NFL. Mm-hmm. There's not necessarily a salary cap, but amount. And then now with NIL, we can pay whoever to try and fix these problems. But Dillon Gabriel's cool. He good. I think the thing is, I think we want him to be out of the pocket and try and extend plays, because I think our DBs are so good that I think they'll be able to hold coverage. I don't think you're going to be able to beat them deep like that. And so I think they'll be able to hold coverage. And so if he's back there running around, you're just going to get tired. You start making mental mistakes. You start thinking there's throws available that aren't. In Ohio State, Jim Knowles will bait you into making those type of throws because he has the playmakers on the outside. You got Caleb Downs all the way back at safety. He's been playing really well. I think we've been slowly unleashing him. I think this is one of those games where we just let him go full haywire, blitz him off the edge, have him play back in coverage, maybe put him as some linebacker. I think this is the game where Caleb Downs does it all on the defensive side of the ball, and we just let him wreak havoc. And this is where I don't want to say make his name nationally relevant because he's been that since coming into college, even playing and being an impact freshman at Alabama. But I think like making his name at Ohio State as far as like over the next 2 years, what you should expect to see from him in big games and how much he really impacts his defense. I expect us to let him loose all game against Oregon. But like I said, like I think this year, the way our defense is built, like we're built to play against running quarterbacks, especially because to me, none of the running quarterbacks are like first round picks that could just extend plays and pick apart your defense. Like I don't think Dillon Gabriel is going to do that. And I think he is a guy that could give what the defense, he'll take what the defense gives him. But I think in this, they're going to bait him a lot. And I think they could create a couple turnovers. And I think if we win that turnover battle, we create 1 or 2. I think that's how vital this defense will be in winning this game, is about who can create the most turnovers.
Most think about this, because in any given year, Ohio State normally plays quarterbacks that are right-handed, which is normal. Like most people are right-handed. Dillon Gabriel is left-handed. The Buckeyes have Aaron Noland as a true freshman who has been the scout team quarterback all week. That's an added advantage for Ohio State because most people, when I was younger, I didn't even realize the difference between a right-handed thrower and a left-handed thrower, and the ball comes out of a left-handed hand different than a right-handed. So when you think about the guys in the secondary, Downs being specifically one of them, then you think about Burke and Igbenogson and everybody else, getting used in game prep and in practice this week to the ball coming out of a lefty's hand in Aaron Noland, that's going to give them an added advantage because, it doesn't just look different. It looks different, and I know how to attack the ball that looks different. Aaron Noland's getting a little extra practice time this week, which is going to help his development, but also help the defense prepare for Dillon Gabriel.
Yeah, I mean, and, Aaron Noland only being a freshman, so it's like, okay, he's not as seasoned as Dillon Gabriel, but, like, it's the best simulation of the type of quarterback that you're going to play. And like you said, like Aaron Noland getting practice reps against the first-team defense.
Man.
Being the example, I think that's a major thing. Like, this is one of the best defenses in the country, if not the best defense in the country. And so to see that your freshman quarterback, because basically being, the decoy as far as, like, mirroring what you'll see from Dillon Gabriel, I think, like, on both sides of that point, I think that's perfect. But, like, not everybody has a left-handed quarterback on their roster to be able to prepare for a left-handed quarterback. So like you said, that's an advantage that Ohio State has. They do get to spend all week preparing against a quarterback that's left-handed that you don't see that often. And so I think that does play into Ohio State's defensive advantage.
Another advantage that Ohio State has on defense, there's only one school in the country that has Tyleik Williams, that he is at Ohio State. And as much as we want pressure on the outside, no quarterback or no person in general wants pressure up in their face. And Tyleik Williams is not only a great in run defense, he is great at getting penetration up the middle consistently. That's another added. Like, there's so many reasons why Ohio State is going to have advantages against Oregon's offense. But that advantage, especially with Oregon's interior O-line not being the best this year and really trying to figure the thing out game after game after game, Tyleik Williams is not trying to figure anything out. He knows what to do, and he's very dominant. I expect him to have another big game as well.
Yeah, I mean, bro, the way he wrecks the middle, like, and him coming back off an injury and just making an instant impact immediately early on in the game was a good sign for things to come. And so I think it'll be the same this week. Like, if he's able to put some pressure on that Oregon offensive line immediately in the middle, we know what Jack Sawyer is. We know what JTT is on the outside. But if you can apply that pressure and create one-on-one matchups for them against the left and right tackle, I think that creates another huge advantage because, like, you can't double everybody and up the middle. Like, I think that's how you have to try and expose Ohio State's defense, is be able to beat them up the middle consistently. And I think with Tyleik Williams, he's a game wrecker. Kind of like Michael Hall. Like, remember, Michael Hall would always be injured, but when he played, like, you seen the difference.
That Notre Dame game, man, he was a dog.
Yeah, and so you seen the difference between like when he was on the field, what it looked like up the middle. And so I think, Tyleik Williams will create that kind of – I think he'll create that kind of like separation as far as what the D-line looks like and the attack that we could get on Dillon Gabriel.
What players on offense or defense for Ohio State will be X factors tomorrow night? Mo and I will dive into that next. This episode is brought to you by ZBiotics. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how you use it. Drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. And always enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code LockedOnCollege at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Once again, you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All the action goes down on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. So, Mo, this is not going to be a conversation about just the guys on defense. We'll touch on some of them as well. But really, offense or defense, there are certain guys that are viewed as X factors. And maybe somebody views Will Howard as an X factor. I don't know. And if you do, great. That's your opinion. But, Mo, who do you think is the first X factor that comes to your mind tomorrow night? We're thinking about X factors, Ohio State, Oregon, in that top 3 matchup.
Treveon Henderson in the screen pass game.
Ooh.
I think Treveon Henderson in the screen pass game is very important to this offense because I think I don't want to say this in a bad way because I think we have 2 very, very uberly elite running backs. I think Judkins is a better running back than Treveon Henderson, but I think Treveon Henderson on the outside is a little more dangerous. His elusiveness, once he gets in the open field, I think he's a little bit tougher than Judkins, but I think pound for pound as a running back, I think Judkins is better than Henderson. And so I don't think we've used it that much. I don't think we've done a lot of things that I think we'll see on Saturday. And I think part of that is like putting Treveon Henderson back there at the same time as Judkins, where one could run the ball and one could go out for a screen pass. And I think being able to use the screen pass game, respect the little short and dump, and let your playmaker be elusive and elite in the swing game, in the screen pass game, I think could change the entire Ohio State offense.
So there's 2 games that come to my mind. We talk about him in the screen pass game, just getting him outside. Notre Dame last year, and then also I believe the Wisconsin game last year. I think both of those games a year ago where Henderson wasn't playing as well as he is currently, but you get that boy out there in space, especially against Notre Dame's defense and that secondary that's fast with guys that were going to the NFL. He did some great things, and he's still fast, man. He's playing so well. Lachlan has him dialed in. Getting him out there in space is going to be very, very important. I'm going to do something where normally I would go O-line or D-line, somebody in the trenches that's going to be an X factor. I'm going to go with Carnell Tate, sticking on offense, because everyone, you and I included, we're going to talk about Jeremiah Smith. We're going to talk about Emeka Buka normally before Carnell Tate's name comes up. And that's not saying Carnell Tate's not good. He's not elite. That's not saying any of that. He missed last week's game, and he is the number 3 receiver at Ohio State. So you're automatically going to get backwards. But when you know that Oregon is going to be trying to stop Jeremiah Smith and then trying to look more at Emeka Buka after his 3-touchdown performance a week ago, Carnell takes that guy. And I can see him making crucial catches in the 3rd quarter, early part of the 4th quarter to kind of keep Ohio State alive, keep the ball moving, and to kind of secure that win down the stretch. I think Carnell Tate this weekend is going to be one of those people that people around the country are going to be saying, we know he was one of the best receivers in his recruiting class. He also would be a starter at other schools around the country, number 1 receiver at other places. He just happens to be number 3 at Ohio State because the Buckeyes are blessed to have Smith and Abuka in the receiving room.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I don't think we've seen I think last year you started seeing as a freshman with Carnell Tate, okay, this dude going to be an important piece in the offense. And like, I think up to this point, he's been a little banged up. He didn't play last week against Iowa. They said he could have played if we absolutely needed him to. But like at the end of the day, he doesn't, or he didn't, and we didn't need him to. Obviously, in the second half, the way we exploded on offense, there was no need for putting Carnell Tate in. And I'm not gonna lie, when I heard that before the game, I'm like, if we play in a game against Iowa where we feel like an injured Carnell Tate has to play, then I think we're in trouble anyway. Yeah. So it's a good thing that he didn't have to step on that field. But yeah, I agree. Like I think, and if you tell me, let's say we're both right, and Carnell Tate and Treveon Henderson in the screen game, and then getting the ball to Carnell Tate and letting him make something shake because you're expecting Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka to try and slash your defense, and then you forget about Carnell Tate. And not everybody, including Oregon, probably has enough DBs to have to guard these guys one-on-one. If we're both right, I think Ohio State might put up 40 points. Like if Treveon Henderson is huge in the screen game and Carnell Tate has, 6 catches, 85 yards and a touchdown, you're talking about this Ohio State offense might be fully opened up and mess around and score 40 points on this Oregon defense.
I got a question for you. And this is something that I really don't normally talk about. I was saying this more a few years ago, but I didn't think it was actually, I said it should happen, but I knew it wasn't going to happen. Is this a game where Chip Kelly rolls out there with one running back and goes 4 wide to start the game to just try to shake things up?
I think so, because I think, like, here's the thing. You could do that when you have a running back good enough. And in this fortunate situation, you got 2. Yeah. Like, so it is one of those all season long. Like, if Junkins was to go down, we still got Henderson. If Henderson was to go down, we still got Junkins. But I think you can do that and test Oregon's DBs, test their passing defense. Like, because not everybody has a Carnell Tate, a Jeremiah Smith, and a Emeka Ibuka. And then you're talking about your fourth guy is probably Brandon Ennis, but maybe even Bryson Rogers. Like, that's your fourth guy. Let's see how loaded you are at DB. Let's see if you play that nickel defense. Can you line up and match up against these guys one-on-one? You're not going to be able to put too many safeties over the top. You're going to have to play these guys one-on-one. I think this could be where Chip Kelly does it. Here's my thing. I think October 12th was always circled on the schedule as the game to let the world see what Ohio State is really about. Like, I don't think they were ever concerned about losing heading into this weekend. And so I think it's scheduled. It was circled on this schedule, obviously, because we knew Oregon would be a national title contender. We knew how good they were coming into the season. But I think Ohio State, I think Chip Kelly and Ryan Day and Jim Knowles all circled this as like, this is going to be the game where we're going to come into this game. We're unblemished. We're undefeated. And we're going to show the world how elite this team really is. And we're going to do that on our side of the ball, or on our side as far as being coaches and doing the right play calling to really show the world how good this team is.
Let's go to defense real quick. We've done a lot of talking about the X factors on offense. I'm going to go to this conversation first. You and I, and even Jeff, all think the linebackers are the weakest link on the team right now, which is very odd for us to say, because we have all had conversations on the show and off the show about linebackers got to get better, got to get better, got to get better. Ohio State under Urban Meyer, you knew you were going to have an elite or future first-round pick at linebacker. For some reason, you can't really get that right now under Ryan Day. This is a game where I think Sonny Styles is going to be very, very, very important. Because if you think about a guy at linebacker that can spy Dillon Gabriel, if that's what Jim Knowles decides to go to, I think that's what Sonny Styles will do. And I think he'll have that assignment this week. And I think it's going to play into Ohio State's coverage, because if you can allow Sonny Styles, who's very elusive and has sideline speed, to spy on Dillon Gabriel, that also plays into your hands to be able to cover the receivers that Oregon has. So for me, when it comes to defensive X factors, I got Sonny Styles, man. This episode is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll go there. I mean, because like you said, like in the weak spot, and X factors, who could have a breakout game?
Yeah.
Who could really make a name for themselves? And like, if you told me Caleb Downs played like the best DB in the country, I'd be like, okay, and we all know that. Like,
Correct.
if you told me Denzel Burke had an amazing game at corner, like, okay, he's supposed to. Iggy is supposed to have a good game as a corner. Like JTT and Sawyer wreaking havoc. Like, okay, that's what they do. Those names are expected. You're expected to hear for this Ohio State defense. But Sonny Styles, like, I think he could be the X factor because I do think that dude is really good. And I think he has the opportunity to be really good and be really elite. He's playing in a new role, but at the same time, like, I think play calling has been fairly reserved because we haven't had to break out any of these guys. Like, look, just go in there and do your job and we'll win this game. Now, it's like the pressure's on. Like, now everybody needs to go in there and show how great they really are. Sonny Styles needs to go in there and show why we moved him to linebacker to impact that linebacker room, which once we moved him to linebacker, I think we all had a feeling that there was that was our weakness anyway. We weren't moving no linebacker to safety. No. We weren't moving no safety to corner. No. Like, we weren't addressing the defensive line. We was moving a guy who was possibly a safety for us to linebacker to make that, that position stronger on our team. And I think Sonny Styles could have a huge game, especially if everybody else does their job. I think it makes his job 10 times easier, and I think he'll handle business. You give a guy like Sonny Styles an easy assignment because everybody else doing what they're supposed to do, and I think that man will run away and make a name for himself and, hey, impress some scouts, because I promise you it's going to be 1,000 of them at this game. It's going to be 1,000 scouts at this game.
Who do you have as an X factor on defense?
Okay, so you went Sonny Styles. Man, I'm going to be unfair and I'm going to say Caleb Downs, but the reason I'm going to say that is because, like, is this the game where we do, like, everything I said I think we'll do? Is this the game where we do that? Caleb Downs, statistically, based on how good he is, hasn't stood out on the page. But, like, if you watch Ohio State football, when we have let him loose, like, you see the difference in that defense. With Caleb Downs' name is in that he come off the edge and a tackle for loss or whatever it may be, or he gets some pressure on the quarterback. So I think with Caleb Downs, like, if we use him in all facets on defense like we can, I think he'll be the major X factor. I mean, if you talking about he has his breakout superstar game in an Ohio State uniform, I think he had one of those with Alabama, or a couple of them. But, like, you talk about his name being cemented as one of those dudes at safety for Ohio State in this game on their biggest stage to date and possibly the biggest stage of the year. I'm sure that there's another game we'll talk about in a few weeks, but this is the biggest stage to date and could turn out to be the biggest stage of the year, at least in the regular season for Ohio State. So I think unleashing Caleb Downs is probably the X factor. And, like, if we let him loose, how dangerous could it get defensively for us?
When I think about a dangerous number 2 at safety, I think about Mike Doss and what Mike Doss did at Ohio State.
Mike Doss was something different. He was something different.
Man, and Caleb Downs is something different. I can go old school and think about Ed Reed, who's in that Mike Doss era too. But, dog, if Caleb Downs if he has one of them games where, like, you are that dude, Ohio State should really just win big. And I'm not trying to be a homer here. Ohio State is too talented that they should, like, if everybody just does what they're supposed to do and just does their job, this game, there shouldn't be any question that Ohio State is going to win this game, because you and I have talked about it. You and I are very critical about Ohio State, but also going into this, I think we're both more confident about what Ohio State will do than we were a few weeks ago.
Yeah, 100%. Like, here's my thing. I think I've always looked at this game as, like, if Ohio State's as great as we think they can be, as everybody else says they are, and as everybody else says they should be, then this will be the game where they show that, especially because, like I said, I don't think Oregon has been the most impressive. But don't forget, we're in a world where all you got to do is win. Like, right now, with the 12-team playoff, the true depth, it's not about style points. It's all you got to do is win, and Oregon has done just that. And I've always said, I say all this, and then Oregon will give us their best game. They'll give us their A+ game that they got. I just don't know if both teams show up with an A+ game. I don't know that Oregon's good enough to beat Ohio State. Like, I think you need to have an A+ game and hope, like, Ohio State's B-, B+ game where you show up to have a chance. Because I really think, like, I think Ohio State sees blood. And I think, they're always dangerous when they see blood in the water. There's not a lot of these type of games. And I know Ohio State's favored. So, like, betting is so big that people be like, I don't think Ohio State's an underdog in this game. But there's a world where people see Ohio State losing this game. They say we lose these type of games anyway. I think this is the way you make the statement. This team came into your conference real loud on Big Ten Media Day. They had a duck in the water. Jay, if I'm not mistaken, you were there on Big Ten Media Day. So you experienced that. If you weren't, usually you are. But
I wasn't there, but I saw a picture of the duck.
You saw it. Like that
you
duck.
Trying to come in here and take over the city?
Yeah.
You're trying to take over the city where, one, you're way far away. Ohio State, I don't even like Michigan, but they've won the past 3. So you're trying to come in and say, oh, this is our town. And then actually out of nowhere, Indiana, the Hoosiers are saying, no, we're trying to get there. So Oregon, I would not try to do all this to come in here and say, we're going to take over this city right now, because there's a lot of Big Ten football left to play. This is about to be your biggest Big Ten game. This is going to be your welcome to the Big Ten moment. And I don't know if Oregon's ready for the physicality that's about to happen tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I think plus Ohio State knows what's at stake. And like, if you're going to lose a game, not a team that just came into your conference real loud and thought that they had an opportunity to beat you and be the Big Ten champ. Like, this statement for Ohio State is big in a lot of ways, obviously nationally, but like for the conference, like the Oregon, UCLA, Washington, and USC just came into this conference, and Oregon was very loud about the feeling that they had with their roster and their head coach, that they just as good as Ohio State, they just as good as Michigan. And y'all talking about Ohio State, y'all talking about Michigan, y'all talking about Penn State. Well, we're here, and we're here to make a claim that this could be our conference over these next few years, and we're going to make a stake by trying to win the Big Ten championship this year. And so I think you got to use that as bulletin board material and take it as disrespect. Like, and I know, like, you know, some people don't understand what I mean by that, but like sometimes it's more, you need more than just the fact of like, this is the biggest game of the year up to date other than Georgia and Alabama in order to play your best ball. Like, sometimes you just got to take the little things personally. And I think what Oregon did on dating back to Big Ten Media Days, they haven't been as loud as you thought they would have up to this point, because I think since Big Ten Media Day, they've been a little, okay, we ain't where we want to be, so we got to be careful. But I think Ohio State, like, you got to make this is a statement game for the Big Ten. Nobody is just about to walk in here, be a new team to the conference and win the Big Ten. It's a statement for everybody. I know everybody don't want to get behind it as far as like the Indianas, the Michigans, the Michigan States, having to root for Ohio State. But like, this is a statement that Big Ten ball is serious, and nobody could just walk into this conference and I'm not saying be competitive, but be a competitor for the Big Ten championship without having to see our top dogs. And let's see what you look like against them before you do all that loud stuff like putting a duck in the river.
Mo, last question here for you before we get into some predictions for the game. What would an Ohio State win mean for Ryan Day?
Everything. And it's not about, I'm not a person that thinks he's on the hot seat. I'm not going to sit here and say his job is on the line. But ever since he showed that, there's 2 games that just point to me like there's something in Ryan Day that can win a national championship. And it's that Georgia game. I know we lost, but like back against the wall, you never seen him that fired up. You know, he let CJ Stroud loose, and we had every opportunity to win that game. And then that win after Notre Dame, where we had won a hard-fought battle, and he was fired up about, y'all call this team soft. This team came to play. They tried to punch us in the mouth, and we ended up winning a close game against a good Notre Dame team. But like those type of games and those moments tell me like there's something within Ryan Day, and these players are fighting for Ryan Day. And so winning this game, setting the precedent that we are the cream of the crop of the Big Ten, this is our year, and it's a green check mark on a red circle game on the schedule, on the calendar that you had as a must-win game for your program to reach your goal. You brought back guys who are seniors that could have went to the NFL to win a Big Ten championship and win a national championship. Those are the expectations for Ohio State, almost said out of their mouths. We're not, as fans, putting these expectations on them. This is what they got, all this talent. This is what they got Caleb Downs for in the portal. This is what they got Junkins for. This is what they spent all that, the $20 million allegedly on NIL. This is what it's for. This is your first true test and first true, to me, green check mark that means something on your way to try and win a Big Ten championship and a national championship. And so I think it means everything for Ryan Day, especially nationally. Like, this game is going to be, when Ohio State wins on the national stage, it always looks good, no matter who the head coach is, no matter who the quarterback is. But for Ryan Day, who people doubt, I think like it'll mean everything for him to win, because I can tell you it will not be good for him in Ohio State if they lose. So that's why I say it means everything, because the goals that you have still continue. The brand of Ohio State is always going to be talked about, but the true, like, being national title contender still carries over, and beating the number 3 team in the country. That would mean everything for any coach. Like, I don't care if it was Nick Saban seeking his 10th national championship. The games like this mean everything for you when you have goals of winning a national championship, even if that's your goal every year. You win these games. If you're telling the world we're national title contenders, you have to win these games. And I think so winning that means everything for Ryan Day, because he's telling the world that we're national title contenders. We got goals. We want to beat Michigan, win the Big Ten championship, and win the national championship. Those are our 3 biggest goals, but everybody before that is in our way, and we got to get them out of the way. So I think it would mean everything for Ryan Day.
I really don't have much to say. You said everything there, because I believe every word that came out of your mouth. I would say, just only add to it, it confirms what they were saying in the offseason. It means everything for Day, but it also confirms what was being said in the offseason inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Because if you talk about it and you don't back it up, we come on our shows and say, why didn't you back up your talk? You were talking all this mess, saying all this, now to your bust, but in the biggest game of the year, you just laid an egg or you lost. We would be on these shows saying it. But I think it just confirms everything, and they confirms that they believe everything they've been saying. I'm going to stop there because you said it so well. I don't need to go any further. Mo, I'm also going to unveil my score prediction before you on this time. I said it on yesterday's show, but I'll say it again. I have no problem. This is a graphic that I think I picked a good picture for this, actually. Ohio State beats Oregon 31-21. And I was really close to going higher, but I think the game is going to be pretty close early. But as Ohio State has shown in the third quarter, they come out of the locker room and just dominate. They just suck the life out of you. It's going to happen once again. I don't think Oregon's going to do anything in the third quarter. Really, if they score in the second half, it's going to be one of those things where a field goal, 50-yard field goal, 52-yard field goal, or something a little fluky where it's not your norm, where, oh, they need to do something crazy and a little trickeration just to get that thing done. But I think 31-21 Ohio State wins. I'm also going to add this, Mo, because if Ohio State does what we believe they can do, it can score 42, 45 points.
That's where I'm at, Jay.
And so I'm thinking in my mind it's going to be closer. But if Chip Kelly adds to what he's already done, it could be 45-10, 45-14. And that's not a knock on Oregon. That's just more what Ohio State should be able to do.
Yeah, I got us scoring 40. I think we score 41. Now, I ain't going to go 45-10 as much as I want to, as much as I love to see it. 41-24, though. Like a convincing win with that 17-point win.
Yeah.
I think Ohio State, man, and I know, like, this is us being, hey, Mo, you're biased. You're an Ohio State fan. I get it. But, like, I really think this Ohio State team is that good. And I don't think Oregon is as good as they thought they were coming into the season and as people thought they were. And I think, like, to me, if Ohio State wants to show the world what they are, then this is it. And this is how you win. You win a 41-24. Maybe it's a hard-fought game for 3 quarters, and then you just pull away in the fourth quarter, and it's 21-21, but you go on 3 drives and score 3 touchdowns. You put up 21 points or 20 points, miss an extra point, you're at 41, and then they kick a field goal, and it's 41-24. I think Ohio State can explode, especially in the second half at any given point, that no matter what point of the game, unless Ohio State's down big, you're not that concerned because they've showed you, like, at any given time, all it takes is one play from one of these playmakers can change the trajectory of the game. And so I think us winning 41-24 is where I'm at with it.
I got one last question here for you, and this is just both of us assuming that Ohio State's going to win this game, picking the Buckeyes to win. Ohio State beats Oregon. They're 6-0 heading into their bye week. 6-0 after beating a really good team. Does this Ohio State team have a chance to be as dominant as the 0-1 Hurricanes? Assuming they win Saturday, do they have
big? Like 31-21, 41-24? Like, if we're right. So, like,
if Ohio State wins 41-24, your prediction after the game, could people realistically say that this Ohio State team has a chance to be as dominant as the 0-1 Hurricanes?
Yes, because I think you have just as much NFL talent from top to bottom. Now, mind you, let's not forget that 0-1 Hurricanes team and their dominance is even more emphasized because of what those guys did in the NFL.
Correct.
So we got to remember that piece. So like, I think yes, but I think we'll have to see what these guys do in the NFL in 10 years, because that's where some of those names, like some of the guys on that 0-1 team, don't get me wrong, they were all great. That was one of the greatest teams. You look at that team, especially when all of them go to the NFL. But yes, I think so, because like you have future first round picks everywhere. Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Henderson, and Junkins. Now, any other year except these past three, I think both of them would be first round picks. But, running backs in the NFL aren't really highly valued as much as they used to be as far as for the NFL draft. But like I said, Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Junkins and Henderson, Jack Sawyer, JTT, Tyleek Williams, Denzel Burke, Iggy. Like, there's so many guys that you think could go to the NFL and really do something and have some expectations and possible first round type talent, that you would look and be like, man, that was a dominant team. You start looking at their dominance once most of them get drafted. Then you'll be like, you'll look at that team, especially if they go and win the national championship. You look at that team where they are, man, they had 10 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks and 4 third-round picks, Then you start to follow their NFL careers to see where they're at in the league 10 years from now. But I think, yes, they could be. But I think we also emphasize, like, there's been some teams that have been just as dominant as that 0-1 Hurricanes. But all of those guys' NFL careers are already done and played out. And so that's why we value how great that 0-1 team is. Don't get me wrong. They're one of like the 2 or 3 greatest teams we've ever seen. But because they're one of those teams, everybody's NFL career played out. That's why we also talk about it. You go and look at that team on like Pro Football References, NFL, just next to like almost every starter on offense, defense. But I think Ohio State has I think they got that type of talent too. And if not, they might not have as many, but I think they could have more impact.
Mo, fun show. I really appreciate that. I had to throw that little question out there at the end because I do think over the next few weeks that people might try to compare this Ohio State team to other greats. Now, the only way to actually be compared to them at the end of the year is by winning the national championship. The road to win a national championship, it has to go through Oregon. We both have Ohio State winning, and I think that we're very confident in our predictions. You can follow Mo on Twitter at Mo_Cheese15. Follow me on the same platform at JStevens07. This has been Locked on Buckeyes on a Friday. Don't forget, we have a postcast tomorrow night at the end of the Oregon-Ohio State game. We both think it'll be a victorious game, a victorious show, so make sure you tap into that one. It'll be live on the YouTube at Locked on Buckeyes. Y'all don't want to miss it.